Every life has a story, and every story is worth sharing. Your story, my story, and our story speak of victory and defeat, joy and sorrow, resilience and vulnerability. They are not just our story, they are Christ's story in us. They are Kingdom Stories from Down Under.
3 years ago, I was invited to play football, soccer, with the Masters team here in Perth. The person who invited me was a Christian friend of mine, Jim, and we used to play football together in the city, just for fun. And he said, look, we're having a Masters team and I'd like you to come and join us. It is called Perth Strikers, and there is a Christian league where you can play. So I went to training and I began playing, and among the many men that I've met in that beautiful team was Flynn. He had a smile about him. He had a positive attitude. He was always around us, encouraging us. And there was something special about him. He would stand in the gap every time there was a need, even in goals, whatever was needed. He was just the man to do the work. And it's an absolute privilege to have here tonight at Kingdom Stories from Down Under my good friend, Flynn. Welcome, Ken.
Thank you, Nat. It's a sheer pleasure and a sheer honor to be with you, to share my journey. Yes.
So yeah, about 3 years ago I met you, and you really touched my life. It was just good to see somebody of your maturity, and what stood out for me is just your humbleness. You're just a humble man, working behind the scenes and just loving the people, and but always actively doing something.
Yeah.
Most people don't see it, but you're always doing something.
Yeah.
So I've only known you in that circle.
Short time, yes.
But I know that there's so much more to your story.
Yes, there is. It's
where does it start from you? Does it start in Australia or in Asia?
Actually started in England because I was born in Burma.
Yep.
My family has come from an Irish background. So I was born in Burma, and lost my father when I was 8 years old.
Oh.
So I didn't have a dad. I said didn't have a dad, but
he was English?
He was Irish.
Irish, and your mum
Irish, and my mum was half Burmese.
Okay.
So they met in Burma. He was fighting the war with the Japanese and decided for the British Army to stay on. He loved it. It was sheer, what a job. He always kept saying all the stories we hear.
Yeah.
So he stayed on in Burma, wanted to make a life in the army.
Yes.
So that's where we grew up, in army quarters and all the facilities of the British Army.
You still remember some of those?
Very little, because the story carries on, and we lost him. I'm the youngest of 4 children.
Mm-hmm.
And my mum, bless her, she basically, had to do everything herself.
Yeah.
But towards the end, when we were
told... Did he die in Burma or in England?
In Burma. Okay. We were told we had to leave Burma because my mum was a teacher in an English school.
Yeah.
But we had all the army quarters, all the facilities of the army who looked after us for a short time till the Burmese army took over, and basically we had to leave Burma. So we had a lot of relations there, my mum's side, and very, very little. My dad was an orphan, but he grew up in Ireland, so registered in the army, and they sent him to war. Wow. So that's how my journey, if you like, our story started in Burma. Then we had to leave. We were basically told to leave or become Burmese citizens. And coming from the European side of my mum didn't want to do that, and my elder brother and sisters were very uncomfortable because we were basically in an English school, being taught. So we left. My mum decided to leave. So it was a decision of coming to Australia or going to England. Mm-hmm. But the pull was to England because her brothers and sisters had already gone. Yeah. So I arrived in England as a 12-year-old.
As a 12-year-old, not as an... Oh, so your dad died as an 8-year-old?
My dad died in Burma when I was 8. So a few years later, we left. Mm-hmm. We left Burma and arrived in England. I'll never forget that because that's where my soccer started, 1965.
Oh,
do you remember 66? What happened? So we got things in common here.
Yeah,
66 was the World Cup.
Yes.
I was only 12, 13-year-old. And
Introduced
I
to the world.
got introduced to
with
the
the best
world, coming from
outcome.
such a background that, what's this football? What's this?
So what were you playing in Burma? Mainly volleyball or?
Football? No. I mean, I was quite keen right from a very young age.
Yeah.
We were so blessed at a school where we had beautiful leaders, beautiful mentors, people who love sport. The Burmese people love sport. They love to play all types of. So I was very involved in sport.
Yeah.
That's why I love all sport, really.
Yes.
But football really caught my scene.
So
that's
you're
why
in England and you're watching all these games and
that's
playing.
it. 1966, the World Cup, and England won the World Cup. So
Yeah.
that's where my love of football started. And so that's where it all began.
Did you start playing for a team or mainly in school?
Sure did. So I was put into a school.
Yeah.
And later on, I was actually 14, but I only went to school for a few years. In a sense, I struggled quite a bit with school, but it was good. But my main ambition was sport. I just wanted to play anything.
Yeah.
At that time, but I done all right at school. I mean, but I didn't like it.
Yeah.
So at 16, I left. I said I had enough.
So you would have finished year 10?
Year 10, year 11, I think I was. Didn't actually finish. And I had an uncle who worked for a very good company. So he took me on, and I think he was part of the company.
Yeah.
So, as a young lad, 16, 17, 18, that's when I started work even, so early in.
So what were you doing?
life.
What were you working?
Apprenticeship. I got an apprenticeship later on.
In what field?
Initially, it was an engineering firm.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was very blessed to start in that company, and I was just a postboy. A postboy.
What town or what city in England were you?
It's called Croydon, Southeast London.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And that company actually, I stayed with them for 18 years after that. So I done my apprenticeship.
And then you went up the ladder.
And then gradually went up the ladder, become an engineer, a tool maker. That was the thing.
Yeah.
And the company was Philips Electronics. That's where I learned my trade. And
Dutch.
it's a Dutch company, making TVs and videos.
Yeah.
And the old videos, the old.
Yeah. Hey, they were good brands.
That was a good brand.
Yeah.
Good brand.
The videos.
And that was a marvelous journey. What a start in life.
Yeah.
So that's where my working life began. And my career began. And through that working career, I was given a lot of opportunities. So traveling.
Yeah.
Yep. I went to America. I went to Holland. They trained us because Philips later on invested in robotics.
Yes.
So I took a full engineering course. In those days, it was just a college. I didn't have enough education to go to uni.
Yeah.
But they actually lay down all the, education, higher education for the apprenticeship.
Yes.
So those days, the apprenticeship was, I think, was about 6 or 7 years. And then I started to get qualified, and through college, got qualified as a robotics engineer.
Wow.
And that's where my career began, and such a blessing. Yeah, so that's a
nutshell.
That's in a nutshell, my little journey. Of course, I wasn't a Christian at that time.
Were you on booze? Like, did you get on the booze with the English people?
Absolutely, absolutely. Those were horrific days. But, the journey
The pub
started.
at the corner.
The pub crawling was out of control.
Yeah.
And I really went out of control for quite a few years.
Alcohol mainly, or gambling, women?
No, not
drugs?
gambling. I never got into gambling, but mainly alcohol.
Okay.
Because the culture in England was after a game,
You had to go.
straight down the pub.
Yeah. Win or
was
lose,
tough.
doesn't matter.
Win or lose, it didn't really matter. It was just having fun,
Yeah.
being together, and just booze, just drink. I suppose those are my dark years.
Were you keeping in touch with your family, with your mum and dad? Well, with your
Yes, yes. I had very support from my brothers and my
You stayed
my
at home?
sister. I stayed at
in
home.
youth?
I stayed at home. And then just what happened, how the Lord works in people's lives.
You met a beautiful
And I
girl.
met my beautiful wife in England. And the ironic thing was, she was from Burma as well.
Yeah.
So I didn't know her there. We met, conversation started. Of course, we had a lot in common
Yeah.
about Burma.
Did she grow up in Burma?
She grew up in Burma. She was very sick at a very tender age.
Yes.
So her parents actually went to Sri Lanka.
Mm-hmm.
So they lived
For
in...
medical care?
Sorry?
For her illness or?
No, for his job.
Okay.
So they actually from Burma went to Sri Lanka. He had a very good job. He was a managing director of, you know, these, the big loaders, the big front-end loaders.
Yes.
So he was with a company that does, you know, looks after all the manufacturing and all the export. Mm-hmm. So he was very fortunate. So he was transferred to Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
She arrived there, apparently, her story is, and just after a year she arrived there, she got very sick. She was 16, I think, when they arrived there. She got very ill, and they basically told her that they would need to send her into Europe or to England for a major operation. Her wound was upside down, and all of her stomach was infected quite badly. Horrific.
Yeah.
But the story doesn't end there. How God works in mysterious ways, isn't it? So she lived with her grandparents in England. That's why I met her.
Yeah.
She arrived
there. She went
there.
for surgery?
She was about to have surgery.
Yes.
And a few days before, she was called into the doctor to arrange everything, whatever.
Yes.
And one of the specialists said to her, we are not going to have surgery. We're going to try and get you on the program.
Do it manually.
To do it manually. You know, they can only do that in the UK.
Wow.
There was no other country in the world that at that time to do all they had to do.
Professionally.
Of her inside.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. Our journey is such it's such profound a way of how God, you know, helped us and guided us. And this specialist cured her.
Wow.
Would share drugs and whatever it needed at the time. The combination of her diet and a few things. So she did have a minor surgery to change a few things, and they managed to turn the wound around.
Wow.
Before she left Sri Lanka, the specialist said that the bad news is she will never have children. Because of the way she was going. And if she didn't have surgery, it would have been something like that. And her lifespan would have been 5-6 years. So they told the parents, the parents got very worried and said, they got to do something. So they sent her. They didn't send her, God sent her to meet someone else to cure her. So her story is quite unique. I mean, so when I met her,
we should have brought her here.
She's got a lovely story. So, yes, of course, when I met her, I didn't know all this. She didn't tell me. You know. So that was after a few years. So I met her when she was 20 or 19, 20.
And you were?
I'm 4 years older than her.
Okay.
So we got married within the year. She was 20 and I was 24.
Yes.
So we got married in 1975. So you work out the maths. 45 years?
47.
47 years. We've been married.
Wow, this year.
And God's given us 4 kids.
Wow. Praise God.
3 girls and a boy I have. 3 in England and 1 here.
Wow.
So that's my little story, but it's a lot in between, a lot more. But anyway.
So she, when she told you, how did you take it?
I was shocked.
Because at that time she thought that she's not going to have children.
She told me that. She says,
before you got married?
If we got married, there is a very high chance you need to talk to my parents. And her parents weren't there to talk to her. Her parents were still in Sri Lanka.
Okay. So
I had to go see the grandparents, and they told me the full story, why she came and what happened. And she said the good news is that I'm still, seeing a specialist, So I'm on a program that might happen. So who knows? Of course, we weren't Christians at the time. So we just said, but I said, look, you know, maybe we won't get married just yet. So I think she was 18, 19 when we had this conversation.
Yeah.
We'll just wait a little while, because guess what? I grew up at Crystal Palace ground. So I registered as a youngster to go and play there. And my football career was just taking off. So I thought, well, let me concentrate on my football career. Maybe I'll get a bit further in life playing professional football. So I did ask her, I said to her, look, why don't we wait 3, 4, 5 years? You know, we love each other. So let's carry on the journey. Let's see how things work out. So let's not get sort of too excited. So that's another reason we put off the engagement, marriage, you know. But at 20 and I was 24, we couldn't wait any longer. We decided to get married. We decided to get married. And I said, yep, I don't care. I said, whatever happens, let's do the right things. I just love you. You love me. Come on, let's go for it. Let's see how. And as I say, there was no Christian input, nothing of God or nothing.
Had you moved in together already? No.
She was living with the grandparents. So she went, and she was studying as well. And my career was taking off. You know, I had such a good job at Philips. My apprenticeship was going very well. So I was coming towards the end of my, not quite end, but I was getting promoted. I was getting quite well paid. So I thought financially, you know, I'm okay to
get married,
to start a married life. So I proposed to her.
How?
I proposed to her.
How did you do it? Do you remember?
It was in a pub.
In a pub?
Yes, with all my friends.
The English way.
English way. Bought a cheap ring. We went to a pub after a game, had a few beers, but I had my intentions where.
Of course.
I just said to her, will you marry me? She nearly fell off her. She got such a shock because I don't think she said, I thought you said we'll wait a few years till things work out. And I said,
I'm drunk, let's do it.
That's good. Let's go for it. And the rest is history. But yeah.
So when did you have your first child?
She's so Abby came along. We got married when I was 24. 4 years we waited before we got our first child. So it was a girl, Abby. Then I had my son, and then we decided that that's it. God's given us, you know, not God, but at a time.
At the time, a couple of kids.
2 kids, enough. And then the third one came along. And then my whole journey changed in a way. But in between that time, I went to an Anglican church, and Cheryl went to a Catholic church. She's brought up Catholic.
In England?
In England.
Occasionally?
So we went to different churches. So that's where we sort of our first journey of Christianity, if you like. You know, began.
So when you were married, did you go to the same church, or you still went separate churches?
No, we went separate churches. Then gradually, she came along to my church because our church was a little bit more upbeat, a bit more out of the traditional. So she liked it. So she started to come, and we started to go to service together, whatever. And then our Christian life completely changed, or something happened. Is that our Anglican church appointed evangelical pastor. So we are very traditional Anglican. And this man came in to this church, and he just, wow.
The gospel.
He spoke about Jesus. He told us who Jesus was. And that's where our Christian journey began, when we just listened.
He didn't get kicked out? They tolerated it.
The church was struggling. The church was, you know, 150, 200 people.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, this pastor walked in, you know, and it went from 150, 200 to 500, 600,
Wow.
800 within a couple of years.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So our Christian journey actually started
In there.
in there. And he married us, by the way. He was the pastor that we came to know him so well. That he married us. We journeyed with him for a long time. But that was our Christian, start of our Christian walk, how God moves in these mysterious ways. He just got hold of us and said, we've got work to do with you.
Yeah.
So we joined a connect group. We joined. The church was just growing. Just you know, the modern day songs they were singing.
Yeah.
But it was the gospel message that was so profound.
Yes.
That's what changed our lives. Just to hear it. So we got baptized together. He married us, and then our Christian fight.
Were they immersing or just sprinkled?
Immersing.
Oh, they were immersing. He was he
full
understood.
On. What we call full on in this day and age
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, yeah.
A pastor who is just thinking about Jesus.
Yeah.
And all he spoke about was Jesus and the truth and the way of life.
Yeah.
And how, you know, how we walk with him. And the stories about the gospel, mainly about, you know, a lot of New Testament stuff.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to see who Jesus was. Of course, when we started connect groups and we started learning about the old and the prophecies and how to
work together.
Work together. The old and the new, the prophesying and what Jesus
and the
came
fulfillment.
from.
And then what brought you to Australia?
That's another story in a lot of ways. My family and Cheryl's basically family as well started to come here. So as I said, you know, I had a very good job, so I didn't want to really go anywhere.
Yeah.
Had young kids.
Yes.
And so we had no intentions of coming to Australia or going anywhere.
Yeah.
Because things were really good. Things were, you know, working out okay in my marriage, in my work and whatever. But gradually all the family members started to come here.
This way.
Yeah. And then Cheryl started to go to a lot of, you know, Bible study, and she had a word from God.
Oh.
To say to her, not me.
Yeah.
She had this word to say that we need to go. She just said, out of the blue, nothing. We spoke about it, you know, briefly, and I said, no. I said, you know, what's the reason? Where's Australia? I didn't know where Australia was. You know, my eldest brother came here on the 10-pound POM scheme.
Yes.
Many years ago. So he was encouraging us to come and said there's a much better life here and whatever. And I always said, so I was quite, you know, resistant to come, resistant to move or whatever, because life was good. Like, you know, why should I go anywhere when things were okay? So we didn't. So she had this word from Isaiah that said, when you turn to the left or you turn to the right, I think it says that, I will be with you.
Yeah.
That's all it was, just a couple of lines.
Yes.
And I remember sitting in a service with her.
Yeah.
She said, I got this word from God. And that's what's telling me that it's time for us to come to move, to immigrate to Australia.
Yeah.
I said, what? But 3 young kids? Are we doing okay?
Yeah.
Or 4? I really can't. So that's where our struggle started for about 6 months. It was a real struggle and a real tension between us.
Yeah.
Of the pull of, you know, if you like, finance and a good living. And I said, I really feel God's given us this.
Yes.
God's gift to us is my job, to look after you, to look after the kids, and to be to grow it. And I love England.
Yeah.
I love it here. It's nothing, She said, I love it here too. I think God's got another phase in our life.
Another chapter.
Another chapter to turn and to be with family. She's very
Migration was easy back then for you?
It was very easy because I thought there's no way they're going to just
accept this.
Be accepted. So she said, this is what we'll do. Let's put our papers in.
Yes.
Let's put the documentation in.
Yeah.
If it comes up as any barrier or anything, we take it as it's not the right time yet.
Yeah.
Can we do that? I said, come on, Joe. I said, okay, go for it. I said, they won't let me go because I've got a good job. I'm married. I've got a couple of kids. The economy loves me. You know, I'm paying my taxes. Yeah. Why would they want to let me go? She said, it's not that. It's Australia who's got to accept it. The other way around. Because I didn't know. My argument was that.
Yeah.
Within a week, we got a return letter.
Yes.
From the Australian embassy.
Yeah.
Said, you're okay to go.
Now.
You can imagine the struggle. Imagine the disbelief.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really expect you.
You asked for it.
Yeah. So that's another journey. Sorry. It's another.
So you honored that and you moved to Australia.
That. Yeah.
And you started working here as?
Within 6 months, I got a job here. And not too far from the Swan Valley, actually. What's that place now? Not Herne Hill. Yeah, a bit further down anyway. There's a new factory.
Yitchigana?
No. It's
Upper Swan, Bullsbrook?
Yeah, Bullsbrook, sorry.
Yeah.
In Bullsbrook, there was a new company starting up.
Yeah.
And they wanted someone with some engineering background.
Yes.
I know a little bit about electronics and things like that. So, working for Philips, I got a job there straight away.
Nice. And did you live up there in the Swan Valley or?
We've always lived around the Swan Valley, yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. So I got a job straight away. Everything was okay.
And then God gave you another daughter.
And God gave us another daughter.
Yeah.
And a new church to start. So Cheryl's brother was involved in Morley Baptist.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where our journey became. So we joined Morley for a short time.
Yes.
But at the time, what we didn't know was they were church planting.
Mm-hmm.
So they wanted someone
to take
over or to go with a pastor to Beachboro.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how Beachboro Baptist Church started, from my brother-in-law. And we had a very senior, Gordon Freeman was his name. A lot of people will know Gordon Freeman. He's very known in the Baptist circles many years ago.
Yeah.
So he was the main pastor. We got to know him and love him so well. So we gave our testimony, how God brought us here.
Yeah.
And he said to us, Kel and Sean, can you become our deacons? Because in those days,
that's how it worked.
Can you become our deacons?
At Beachboro.
At Beachboro.
Ah, new one.
So we got involved, new church
plant.
plant.
Yeah, awesome.
A church plant.
Yeah.
So that's our journey of.
Do you preach as well?
No, I don't have that gifts.
Yeah.
Just give our testimony.
Serve, love.
So I became an elder.
Yeah.
And church secretary, supported the church as it went.
Yeah.
And Cheryl was doing all the admin.
Okay.
And
she still is.
She still is. And we got into music.
Oh.
So we were leading music as well.
As you do.
As we do. God gives us. We can't sing. Sorry.
What do you play?
Cheryl. Nothing, just sing.
Oh.
Yeah. So Cheryl, the singer.
Yeah.
In Sri Lanka, she joined a girl band. So she came and sang. So she was the lead singer. So I was just vocally. So we joined a music group. We started a music group.
Nice.
And Beachboro just went. Praise the Lord. It's just a church plant from 50, 60 people to 300-400 we had. So we moved from the church in Alton Road.
Yes.
We moved into the Alton Rec Center. Yes. Our church got too big. The people were coming. So we moved into Alton Center.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
the decline
happened.
Mm. It's the bell curve.
Mainly because of what?
Because of?
pastors being unfaithful.
Conflict. Oh, pastors. Oh, yeah. It's happening now, isn't it?
It's such a shame. And we were right caught up
In the saga.
in that silo. And we really questioned, like, hey, what's happening with what's happening here? You know, we love God, we love the Bible, we love Jesus. What is happening to our pastors?
Yeah.
And we went through quite a challenging time. So we had 4 pastors come and go. And guess who had to take all the brunt of it?
You did.
We
the
did.
elders.
Sorry, not me alone.
Yeah, the elders.
You know, my entire family, Cheryl, myself, and Cheryl started to get a calling to study a bit more about the Bible, about counseling.
Yes.
So she really wanted to do that, like as if to question, to say, how can we help? What's gone wrong here? What's happening in this Christian circles that pastors are just coming and going? And not all 4 of them. Sorry, it was 2 of them that got into things that they shouldn't have done, and just not only hurt the congregation but hurt us as Christians who are, you know, really believe that, you know, this shouldn't happen. This shouldn't happen. What's going on here?
Yeah.
So we tested. We asked questions, and but it was a beautiful journey because God taught us that we are all human. Yeah. People fall, no matter who they are. Yeah. And you well know what's happened to other big churches. Sure. And other churches that's, you know, and we have to work with this. And I think that's how has given us more and more about the love of God and who Jesus is. Yeah. Not that he allows it to happen, but things like that happen. So how do you cope with it? How do you deal with it? How do you journey? Yeah. Keep your sanity, keep the church together, keep the families, keep the conversation going. That's right. So that's where we go back and say, well, the journey started with when we first gave ourselves to Jesus. Yeah. And the pastor who done that was such a faith man of, so we learned so much from that early journey. Yeah. That we, although it became tough, it became hard. Kept you going. Kept us going. And that's how the football started. How about that? We had to get to this. We'll get to this. I assume you would have played once you landed here. You started playing, wouldn't you? Yes, I joined many clubs here actually. Yeah. When trialed in a few clubs here and there. But what was disappointing in that sense was, I don't know whether you know this, that it was very ethnic. Yeah, it was. You know, I felt very uncomfortable. Yeah. It was like I joined a Greek club. I joined Swan Valley. I went to quite a few other clubs, and I felt very uncomfortable. Yeah. You had to be Greek to play in a Greek or Croatian or Maltese or whatever it was. Whatever. Yeah. Yes. There was no Burmese team, was it? No. English? Well, there was actually, but I didn't know them. Yeah. Such a strange thing because Zaffa's come from a Burmese club. Okay. You know, Chindays they call it. I don't know if you know them. Yeah. Chindays and Morley. Yeah. Yeah. They're all Burmese, but I never met the guys. Otherwise, I would have joined them. And they weren't coming to your church. And you weren't going to the pub anymore. I wasn't going anymore. No. So, how did you start the journey? So what happened was at WACFA? When I was at Beachborough, we had a letter from Girraween Baptist Church, which is just on the road here. The pastor wrote to some of the churches around the area. Yep. And our pastor got it, and you know, he knows my journey. He says, "Kel, this is for you." I looked at it, and it says there, we're writing on behalf of Girraween Baptist Church. We have a family here who want to meet people of football interest to start a club or to be involved in some sort of startup for kids, you know, to play, you know, soccer, football. Yeah. Will your church people be interested, or families coming and joining us,
Yeah.
and whatever. As soon as I looked at that, I thought, oh, wow, yes, I'll do that. So I picked up the phone that same Sunday when I got that email. So I rang the church, and the pastor said, no, it's not me. It's actually a family that I've known for a long time coming to church.
Yeah.
And they've come and expressed that to me. Would you like to meet them? I said, sure, I'd like to meet them. Come over. So, within a week, I actually went over and met David and Eleni Del Pino.
Mm-hmm.
You probably know their name. They had two sons at the time. And
Italians?
No, he's Spanish.
Okay.
And she's Greek.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. But he's come from the footballing background. He loves, comes again. So he invited me to his house. I went to his house. So I was the first one to meet him. And David really, both of them actually, expressed their struggle with going to church on a Sunday and going and dropping the two boys for sport.
Oh.
So they're very split.
Yeah.
And they said, hey, Kel, we need some help here.
Yeah.
And by your letter, you were very keen on soccer, on football.
Yeah.
He said, what if we just wait and see how the churches around the area, the schools, the churches that his pastor wrote to?
Yeah.
He said, we do have some replies. And you've reacted so quickly. So you're the first one that's really reacted. So what do you think? I said, wow. I said, that sounds really, really up my sort of, let's go for it. And let's see what sort of,
what
feedback we get.
Club or
what can we do? How can we start this?
Yeah, mini competition.
Yeah. So, and their story was like, like myself, I suppose, a lot of struggles with going to church, dropping the kids off, picking them up. So there's a lot of tension over the last few months at church.
Yeah.
And they were struggling with their Christian walk even because
missing out
on, they wanted to give the two kids, all the support and whatever.
Yeah.
But of course, their belief and their Christian walk was getting in the way. So the two things were in conflict. And that's how basically it started. And we started to get some letters. And some of the ones we got back were from Kalamunda Church of Christ.
Yeah.
And Swan. So those were the two sort of main guys that actually, responded. And the pastor at Kalamunda said that he was also involved in Perth Glory.
Ah.
So we said, oh, right.
Small world.
Small world. This is the guy we want on board. So we just waited. And within, a couple of weeks, we all met. Well, no, sorry, saying all. There was David and Helen, myself, and this pastor from Kalamunda.
Yes.
And a teacher from Swan Christian.
Oh, there you go.
So that was the original.
Yeah.
At David's house. And we just started to talk. And in the meantime, we were getting a lot of letters and emails saying, yes, we were interested. We might be interested in joining. And basically that was the start of it. So we were so excited. I was so excited. I thought, oh, wow. And I had to share that I really think this is God. This is God talking to us.
Yeah, yeah.
And you know what? The first pastor from Kalamunda, he said, I've got a word. And we started to share our faith and our feelings about when God calls.
Yes.
And I'll never forget that because Nehemiah was on my mind.
Yeah.
You know how God called him.
Yeah. To rebuild the walls.
To rebuild the wall.
Yeah.
Right? And when he went, he couldn't do it himself.
No.
He had to get
everybody.
He had to get everybody. He had to get the community to come and help him. Isn't that? That's why I wrote a few things down when I knew you were going to ask me about that. How that start?
Yeah.
And then they started to quote scripture to say that we won't be alone in this, that God will be behind us. If we get together, we pray about it, and let's see what happens in the next few weeks, few months.
Yeah.
And wow. Now, from then on, the doors just opened and we had so much of input,
Yeah.
you know. So this was 1999, okay? 6 months before we actually launched
23 years ago.
SOR, 23 years ago.
So you incorporated it a few months later.
Yes, so 99, so 6 months we actually met and started to work on how we're going to do this, whatever, and we started to get a lot of feedback from schools. I visited a lot of schools and we started to get some feedback and basically said, okay, let's launch this and let's see it, because we needed clubs. We just can't say, oh, come here and then we'll do our own thing. So we started to drop. And then we had a guy that joined us from a mining company.
Yes.
I'll never forget this, because we were really in need of administration, someone who can write policies, someone who can write procedures.
Yes.
And he turned up from Riverside Club. Right? He turned up to one of our meetings and we started to talk to him and whatever. So that was a link missing, because we had the administration side. Yeah. And Eleni was quite good in Eleni. You had the footballing side with me. Yeah. The coaching side, and played football and played at a level where I understood. So the coaching, the training, I could look after. Yeah. And grounds wasn't a problem, because some of the schools said you can use, Swan Christian told us, Kingsway told us that we can use their premises. Yes. So we started to go meet the principal, and although it was conflict with the school in regards to sport, but we said our idea was to play on a Saturday
weekend.
Yeah. And this guy walked in, and he just started to pour up what he did as a job. He's a procedure man. So we said,
ding,
wow.
ding, 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 ding.
All the alarm bells started to ring. And he was the guy that wrote our first constitution.
Wow.
He was the guy that researched, all about the law and all about that, got in touch with Football West. So he started to do all that.
Set it up properly.
So we had the main core there.
Yeah.
And that's how
So you founded the West Australian
Yes, it was the West Australian Christian Football Association, WACFA.
Yeah, WACFA, yeah.
WACFA. It was first SOR, Evangelical Soccer Association of Western Australia. Yeah. Then after quite a few meetings and whatever, we changed it to WACFA.
Yeah. Better.
And then, better. Yeah, much more simpler. So yeah, for the year 2000, we actually launched it with 4 clubs. Yeah. My club, which was called Junior Strikers at the time. Yeah. So we registered as Junior Strikers. Kingsway. Yes. A Christian college. Riverside, which was Wilson and the Riverside School. Yeah. 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 And Armadale. Right? Sorry, 5. And Valley, which was a Swan Christian. Yeah. So there was 5 clubs.
That's pretty good.
With 300 kids.
Whoa!
300
from the
kids
word go.
From the word go. Wow. So we played under 6.
Everyone was volunteering here.
All volunteering, except us. Well, we all were. So we started with the under 6, under 8s, under 10s, under 12s. Wow. And I think we went up to the first year. We went up to under 14s. So that's all we had. Yeah.
No men's or women's.
No, there was no
masters.
There was no seniors. Yeah. 16, 18. We're getting a little bit more serious. So we said, let's start with the juniors. Let's see how
build it up.
And my goodness, within
3 years, 4 years,
couple of years, it
was blossomed.
The committee started to grow. We started to get more understanding about.
And you were working at the same time, because this would have taken a lot of toil.
It was taking a lot of my time, right?
And both you and
the church, my children. So it was a marvelous moment. But again, when God's in it.
Yeah, you do it with love. There's nothing to hide.
Nothing.
At the moment, there are over 1,700 players.
Yes. We started with 300. It's over.
And how many?
22 years.
22 years, 1,700 players.
1,700 players
9
registered.
clubs or 10 clubs?
9 clubs registered now.
Going from under 6s.
Under 6s to now the Masters.
Wow.
And we didn't have Masters for quite a few years. So we started to grow with the under 14s, under 16s, under 18s.
Yeah.
Then it came a bit sort of serious in a way. So I was in a committee for 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then really it was time to let go. I really felt God was saying,
matured it, you brought it to where it
was
should be.
all the foundational stuff, and we met and we chatted. We started to write to clubs and say, we do need committee members. We need some new people coming in.
Yeah.
And
to teach,
it was so good. I mean, there's a lot of people didn't have the skill, but we worked together.
Yeah.
You know, we had the foundational stuff. You know, the constitution was written, the bylaws were written.
Yeah.
So we shared our journey, how it started, with just someone crying out to make this available, and we responded.
Yeah.
So so it just started to grow from there, Nat, really.
Wow.
And here we are today. In you know, I'm still involved. I don't know why, but I'm still involved.
Yeah, no, you play the game. You're there Saturday.
I love to play. I go referee the games now.
Yeah.
I help Zappa. And as a club, even we had some ups and downs.
Yeah.
First
strikers.
Yes, because you know, me and Cheryl ran it for quite a few years with the help of Beachborough school teachers.
Yes.
You know, they helped us. They journeyed with us. And then we had one of the guys that came in, Andre he done a marvelous job. So I handed the reins to him, become president of the club. So Andre took over, and he had two boys. They were like 16, 18. So they loved the game.
Yeah.
So he was president for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then his marriage broke up.
Oh.
He had a few issues. And he came up to me and said, Cal, I can't do this anymore. It's fine. It's okay. I says, you've journeyed with us. I'm so grateful. Yeah. Because, you know, I was coming towards the end of my journey with the club. The burnout was about to happen. Luckily, you know, God's so kind, so good. I'm so grateful that He didn't allow us to get to that burnout stage.
Yes.
So the timing was right when Andre came in. Yeah. And he helped the club so much. He took over, done a lot of the admin work, and I was helping, obviously, you know, in the background. Then he went through quite a... So we had no one. The club was about to collapse, to be very honest with you. It was about strikers. I was about to go to the committee and say, well, guys, I'm sorry, you know, things are not...
Was it more in leadership or not enough players?
Both.
Okay.
A bit of both. We lost our way a little bit. And then Zaffa came along. Zaffa said to me, he said, Cal, you know, I've got a couple of kids, but I'm really interested in the older ones. I'm not really into that. I said, Zaffa, what are you saying to me? I said, that's the area I want. I don't want to lose my older kids. I don't have a coach. You are a godsend. You know that? Oh, is it really? I said, yes. Yes. I said, somehow, Zaffa, God answers our prayers, mate. I said, over the years, you know, we've been struggling a bit, and the club is about, you know, I didn't want it to go. I really was fighting, and I had conflict with my wife. Cheryl said, I think God's telling you something. I think your time is coming to let go, and let go completely. So we went through that passage of, you know, I said, okay, but he'll tell me. I'll know, because I'm that way inclined. I said, somehow I know. And when Zaffa came, and this was going back 6 years, he's our president. When he came there, I said, Zaffa, that's the age that I don't have a coach. We don't. Then he brought in George. He brought in the senior guys. And then we had a meeting with Andre, and I had to tell Zaffa, well, this is his last season. This is going to be a few years. And to be very honest, I said, I'll struggle with the president's side of carrying on the club.
Would you step up?
I said to him, will you be willing to take the reign as president and take the club over? He said, Cal, I thought you'll never ask. Yes, I'm ready for it.
Wow.
Let me
Praise
go.
God. Yeah.
And I didn't know the man that well. I didn't know him
Yeah.
well enough to, but somehow, you know, how God sends
Time.
His people. When the foundation is right, you'll never
He's a
lose
good
sight.
man.
So Zephyr just took it over, mate.
No.
Oh, wow, what a relief. And we'll see him now thrive and do the things like, you know.
He's so committed to it.
He's so committed. You know, he's there every Saturday.
Family
man.
From 8 o'clock in the morning till
he's from there. He's there with all the kids, and he's run the club now, you know. And he said to me, I really respect I really told him my journey and how it all started and how the strikers started with the school. And he said, oh, wow. And he was quite involved in the Chende club. And so, you know, he's come from a football background.
Yeah.
I really wanted someone with,
who understands both.
We can do the admin stuff.
And the admin. Yeah.
You need the
but
coaches.
You got to be out there. You got to be out there.
So here we are.
Where are your children now? Is your son still playing or?
No. My kids didn't play. My youngest daughter, who was born here, she's the only one that played for strikers.
Okay.
So
so you're a grandfather.
My son is a basketball man.
You're a grandfather?
Grandfather of
5.
Hallelujah. And another 2 on its way.
Are they all here in Perth? Or?
All here in Perth.
Oh, beautiful. Nice.
Sorry, I did go on a little bit, mate.
That's fine. What's next for you, Kel?
What's next for me? Waiting on God.
Okay.
I'm so involved in our church. We're very involved.
Still Beachboro Baptist? Or
No, we go to Riverview.
Okay, yeah.
So Cheryl works there. Cheryl's been working there for the last 8 years.
Okay, nice.
So as I said, I think
she does
journey
counseling
with her.
Or?
Cheryl's a counsellor now.
Yeah.
So what she's taken up at our church and will do, she's joined a company called the Anchorage, which is they look after supervision of pastors. So she's just joined that place. It's someone from church that she knew. So that's the new thing in her life.
Yes.
And she enjoys what she's doing at our church. She's she works part-time. So she's part of the care and grow team.
Yeah. So
Cheryl does the counseling side of, and she does, so she's a celebrant. So she marries people.
Yeah.
And she also looks after the baptism classes. So she runs classes and all the, some of the courses, that we run. So Cheryl's part of that team.
Nice.
That has that. So we've just done Alpha. You must have heard of Alpha?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's an all English.
Yeah, awesome.
Nicky Grumble.
Yeah.
That we done in England.
Yeah.
And we done here as well. So our church is doing that at the moment.
Nice.
For non-Christians and new Christians.
Yeah.
So where from here, Nat? I don't know. I think God certainly got a purpose, for us to do things together. We've always worked together.
Yeah.
In churches and in our Christian walk. We've always, He somehow kept us together in ministry. So, so we just wait. So now it's a waiting time.
It is, but you're still actively involved. Yeah. It's not like you're standing by.
No.
But you like to understand what this chapter will bring.
Yes, I suppose now. Oh, sorry, it's got something wrong.
All good.
I think He's got a purpose for us.
Yeah.
I think so. Our thing is just waiting on God now. What next in our chapter?
Wow.
What has He got for us? And I think the way Cheryl is moving and the way our church is going, we're into connect groups.
Yes.
We're into Alpha, I just said, bringing in new Christians, nurturing the ones that been Christians for a long time, but they're a little bit lost or not quite sure.
Yeah.
It's to journey with them. But our mission is for that. Let's see where He takes us.
Leading people into the kingdom.
See where. So I enjoy volunteering at church and just being part of the worship there. Love what we hear from our new pastor. Yeah. But it's also a middle bit I haven't told you about. Our mission in Burma.
Oh, you do. You go.
We
back
support
there?
a missionary there.
Yeah.
there's 3 missionaries that we were supporting,
Yes.
but now we do one because we went there 3 years ago, just before COVID,
Yeah.
and we went there about 5 years ago, and this pastor was looking after an orphanage for children,
Beautiful.
and me and Cheryl just
Touched.
the heart went out to what's happening there. So what we've now created with our family, we prayed to send money there on a regular basis to support the orphanage.
Yeah.
And of course, we're so thankful because it's so hard there.
Yes.
It is very, very difficult there. So that's what we're doing there as well.
Wow.
And once COVID's all done, once it's finished,
You'll be flying back then.
we'll be flying out there.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on the
My
show
pleasure.
and just sharing your story, Cal. What an amazing story. What an amazing man. What an amazing journey. Never a dull moment here at Kingdom Stories from Down Under. I pray that this encourages you to work out your ministry part and get involved. Cal has been involved to set up something which has blessed thousands and thousands of people over the years, the West Australian Football Association, Christian Football Association, and even now his passion for the Lord is just as powerful, and he's ministering in the local church and also with missions overseas, and together with his wife, impacting the world through the local church, which is really beautiful. I pray that this encourages you and it helps you do your part in your local church and everywhere the Lord is calling you. We look forward to seeing you again at Kingdom Stories next week. This is Natanael Costea.
Thank you for joining us on Kingdom Stories from Down Under. We'd love it if you would subscribe, rate, and share these stories with your wider community. And remember, every story is worth sharing, including yours.